everybody has a best in everything that they do every single day, regardless of what level you're operating at that day. And that's the expectation. That's the expectation that we put on ourselves as coaches. That's the expectation that we put on our players in all avenues of their life.
Welcome to the Jamodi Podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is Jamodi, just a matter of doing it.
Today we are joined by the head men's basketball coach at the University of Pikeville, Tigh Compton. Coach Compton just completed his 14th year of coaching, third as a head coach. He has a unique perspective since he started as a student assistant, then moved to assistant coach, then associate head coach, to finally becoming the head coach all at UPike. In his time at UPike, he's led the Bears to an NAIA National Championship in 2011, 3 MSC regular season championships, and 9 national tournament appearances. Before we hear from Coach, take a moment to subscribe to our podcast and follow us on social media at Jamodi Podcast.
Well, I just want to first thank you so much for coming on and giving up your morning to talk hoops with me. I mean, I just really appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. I'm thrilled to do it. Love doing things like this. And we've been up and at it, already this morning, guys, in the weight room doing different things. So this is a good midday break for me. Awesome.
I do know one of the questions you chose was about social media, enhancing your program. And that's really how you and I have connected is just I just saw you on Twitter, either retweeting something or somebody retweeted you. And then I follow, and then I start to see, man, like I love the stuff that your program's doing and the things that you're sharing and the things that it looks like your freshmen are doing together when they first get on. And so thankful for social media for connecting us. But it looks like you guys are doing a lot of cool things in your program.
Yeah, social media for us is I'm just a believer that people won't be interested in something that they don't know about and they don't know what's going on. And for us, I've always kind of ran our social media, even when I was an assistant, and I still do that now. Our program social media, and obviously we have our personal stuff as well that, we have a lot of carryover in that. We don't separate a ton with that. Most things are getting shared by one or getting shared by the other. And we're just trying to reach the masses as much as we can. And I just think it's important for fans to be able to keep up and feel like they're part of it. And, they're not able to be here every day. We're not able to showcase things every day, but we're able to kind of share what our journey looks like up to this point. And in order to draw them in and keep them interested, especially locally and what we're doing, it's extremely important. And it gives us a cheap, easy way to share with the local, with the regional, with the national, just with anybody that has any kind of interest in what we're doing personally, what we're doing professionally. Just gives us an opportunity to share as much as possible with them. And we think that trying to create that brand and keep our brand out there, we think that's a good thing.
I heard on a podcast years ago, can't even remember who said it at this point, but he said, if you're a coach and you're actively using social media to promote your program, you're behind. And this was, 2008, 2009. And I just, as a competitor, I immediately thought to myself, I don't want to be behind. I want to make sure I'm moving in that direction. I love your idea of the different platforms, even personal and team complementing each other. Because you're right. I don't think it needs to be separate. I think they can not necessarily just promote, but just share what each other's doing. So I think you're in a good spot there.
Well, there's so many people, especially I know speaking in my life, there are so many people interested in what we're doing here at UPike because of their relationship with me, or, same thing with our assistant coaches or players and parents of players and those kind of things. So, I think it would be negligent for me to not share the information about our program on my social media and kind of get the word out that way, just because I do think that there are enough personal friendships, personal relationships to where people want to keep up with you professionally as well. And it just gives them one platform to do it from. They don't necessarily have to follow the basketball Twitter or the basketball Facebook or whatever that looks like. They can keep in touch with the person that they have the relationship with and still maintain the information that they want to maintain from our professional lives as well.
I just want to celebrate you personally, because as another coach myself that does the social media for his program, I know how much work that is, how much time it takes, and the thought and the planning that comes behind it. So like these bigger programs, high school or college, that they have a coordinator that only does that, and they put out amazing stuff. I definitely appreciate now that I know that you're the one doing that, because I know how much time that takes.
Yeah, it's just I maybe it's the coach in me. I guess it's just having a little bit of control over something is a good thing. And I'm still young as being a head coach. This is going to be year 3 for me, and delegation has always been one of the things that's been really difficult for me over the course of time. And I guess it just goes back to that old adage. If you want it done right, do it yourself, or if you want it done the way that you want it to be done, there's no better person to do that than me myself. So it doesn't take a ton of time to be able to kind of just lock in and exactly on the message, the image, and kind of what you want to portray, the words that you want to use to portray it. I'm a communication major, so choosing words correctly and trying to really emphasize what kind of message that you want to get out. A lot of times I just feel better. Makes it a little easier on my mind to know that it's coming straight from my mind onto social media versus having to kind of delegate that and trust and hope that my message isn't getting misconstrued somehow, some way between point A and point B, and the message that I want to get out not getting out. So I just assume just to find a little time and take care of that and handle that on my own.
That's a good point, though, because the culture that your program has, I think it's going to come out through social media. Not meaning that if a group doesn't have a strong presence, that they don't have a strong culture. But if they are active on social media, I think the culture is going to come out, and we're going to kind of see the message, like you said. What does your program stand for? Is it celebration? Is it enthusiasm? And is it toughness? Like, it's going to come out with hashtags or quotes, sure, or what you guys are doing. So the more that you allow other people to have a hand in that and what they're putting out, yeah. And here's the thing too. I think players lose scholarships because of social media all the time. I wonder how many coaches are getting in trouble or programs getting in trouble across the country because of something they put out. And so you're right. It is nice to kind of have the control that you and I have over it. But anyway, just celebrating the hard work you're doing there.
Absolutely. No, I totally agree. And, I think controlling the narrative is probably too strong of a phrase for that. But at the same time, just making sure that the right things and the right messages and the right photos, the right, just what you want to be about is getting portrayed in the right light. I think that handling that myself is just one less thing I have to worry about. Maybe having a mistake made or maybe not exactly hitting the mark the way we hope to hit the mark.
I think as coaches, we're constantly trying to learn new things. That's why we listen to podcasts. That's why we follow certain coaches and read certain books. What's one of the best things that you've borrowed lately?
The thing that is on the tip of my tongue or at the front of my mind, I guess, was a basketball immersion podcast, maybe last week, with Kyra Elzy, the University of Kentucky women's coach. She talked about Lynn Dunn, kind of giving her advice when she first took over for Coach Mitchell. And, I related to that because I was able to, as a first-time head coach or a young head coach, you're trying to get everything in. You're trying to do all these different things that you've always thought about doing that you think could be good. And you're trying to become a jack of all trades and maybe missing the mark and becoming a master of none. And Coach Dunn gave Coach Elzy the advice of making what she called a 3-3-3 plan. And that was 3 things that you want your team to be excellent in, 3 things you want your team to be great in, and 3 things that you want your team to be good in. And I guess that was a way for her to narrow down really the focus and the intention that she wanted her team to focus on and be about, and the things that she thought that they needed to be about to be successful. And it really helped her, in her words, it helped her with her practice planning. It helped her with her workout planning. It kind of helped her keep, I guess, the big things, keep the main thing, the main thing. And, I heard that and that just, it hit me and it resonated with me extremely immediately. And it's just, having to sit down and kind of figure out what that looks like for your program, what that looks like for your team has helped me now as we're kind of putting together what our individual or small group workout plans are going to be, trying to portray what the whole is going to look like to our staff. I've got an associate head coach that is back with me, another full-time assistant coach that is back with me, but we've got 2 graduate assistants that are new. So with 15 new players, 2 new staff members, and really changing a little bit about what we're doing schematically, offensively and defensively. Again, it's all kind of stored up in my mind and on notebooks. And how do I get that across to all the other people that need to know what I'm thinking and what direction we're going? So creating that 3-3-3 list was big for me in terms of just trying to get across to them, give them something on paper that they can look at and maybe start to understand a little bit about some of the things I talk about, some of the things that we say that we want to do, that I say that hopefully we're going to do differently this year, just giving them kind of a game plan as to what the year is going to look like overall and the things that we're going to really have to try to work hard on. It has helped significantly.
I think a big takeaway for me from that is you can't be excellent at everything.
Sure.
And I think we want that. Like as a coach, and obviously the teams that probably win it all at the very end, they're probably more excellent at more things than others. But we can choose, and as coach, that is we choose the direction that our team is going to go offensively, defensively with our culture. But I love the idea of, all right, what are the 3 things that we really want to be excellent in? Because you nailed it. That will put blinders on to maybe some of the things that distract us, that'll keep us away from winning. I think the tougher thing would be the second 2 tiers. How do you separate we just want to be great here and good here? Because I think excellent, for us, we want to shoot the ball with a confidence that is uncommon. That we want to be excellent there. So, but the other 2 tiers, how do you split those?
Yeah, it's hard. I think, honestly, when you sit down, and I know this happened when I sat down and tried to make our list, really what you come up with is 9 or 10 things that you really think you need to be really, really good in and maybe excellent in. And you just list and things kind of fall where they fall at times. But, I think for me, keeping some of the larger, more encompassing categories in the excellent category to where it could maybe carry over into different areas. Obviously shooting the basketball is something that is huge for us. That impacts that can impact our half court offense. That impacts our transition offense. That can impact so many different things. So keeping things that maybe have multiple impacts in some of those higher boxes for me was a goal, just because I think that we're able to find more branches off of those things and maybe steer our work in different directions more frequently from some of those boxes. But again, it's all, you get through 9 things, we've got to be pretty good in at least 9 things to have a chance. So even as you're getting down to rebounding and ball screen defense and transition defense, if transition offense is so important for you, it's probably extremely important to keep the other teams out of transition. So I don't know that maybe great, good, or excellent, great, and good is a good way to put it on paper and differentiate it. But I don't know that all of those things aren't probably equally as important at the end of the day. And I think it's an ever changing kind of thing. Once we get into practice, maybe our group is naturally going to be more prepared in a certain area than what we thought, and all of a sudden maybe, if we're using that list to steer the direction of our work and steer the direction of our practice focus, maybe we don't need as much practice focus in a certain area because we have a little more natural instinct and natural ability in that area, and already feel like we're a great team in that area. So we switch that up and maybe put something in there to steer us and direct us in a manner that we need to be more improved in. So I think it's an ever changing list, I think, but for us as a staff, we're sitting down and it's getting closer to the point where individuals and group workouts are going to become, all encompassing of our days and our hours most of the time. And, I give, we break our guys into 3 groups. We've got guards that are mainly interchangeable. We've got posts, and then we have a tweener group, kind of guard forwards that kind of have to learn a little bit of everything. And, I take that group, and my associate head coach takes our guards, and our other full-time assistant takes the posts, and I give them the freedom to create their own workout. We kind of give them an outline of, using that 3-3-3 list and using some other guidance that maybe are some things that I would like them to start with on a baseline level and kind of build from there. Just it helps me get the point across to those guys as to what I really feel is important, what you really need to be thinking about and putting into your workout plans. and some of the things that we really need to see, especially early with some of our guys. So I think just for organization purposes, I think it makes a ton of sense for our program.
I definitely could see a lot of clarity coming from an activity like that.
Sure.
I was thinking about it's rare, but occasionally you'll play a team, and at the very end, you think back over the game, and you're like, I just don't know, what was their thing? What were they trying to achieve? What was their identity? And I think maybe an activity like that will help with coaches or help myself to really fine tune and pick a lane where we want to be excellent. Because I think if you throw everything out there, we want to try to be excellent or good at everything, then man, you're going to fall short in some of the areas that you really need to focus on. And then I thought about too, you can almost have two tracks to that, where one track is excellent, great, good in style of play, philosophies. Another track in culture. What
Sure.
are the things culture-wise that we really want to be excellent at? And then what things are less important to you as a coach or to our team?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right on it. I think you can mold that to any philosophy or really any kind of thing that you want to do in terms of improvement with your program. And no matter what list you have, no matter what core values you have, no matter what it is in your program, there are always going to be things that are more important to you as the coach and just more needed from a team perspective, maybe at this time of year versus maybe later in the year, whatever that looks like. So, that's been one of the biggest things for me as a younger head coach is going into year 3. I feel so much more prepared in what it is that I need to be able to coach at the level that I feel is my best. And what kind of characteristics do I need from my staff? What kind of characteristics do I value most from our players? What kind of things are just absolutely non-negotiable for me that I've not been able to coach around, or that I've not been able to maybe handle in the manner that I would prefer to handle it in my first couple of years. So just becoming more clear in what it looks like to make the situation as impactful and as good as it can possibly be for our players and for myself to mesh, and for the main things to stay the main things, and to not really get off track just because of a character trait or a personal issue with me, or just whatever that looks like. Just finding the track for me that I'm able to impact our guys the most and able to pull the most out of them has been huge. And the organization such as that list has been, things like that have been huge for me.
And you're right, it does take time, because you have a really interesting story, moving from as a student assistant at the school to an assistant coach to associate head coach. And now, so you've been able to see the culture, you've been around this program that you're a part of for a long time, but there's a difference between that 18 inches. And then, it's taken you, like you said, 2 or 3 years now to feel like, okay, I kind of know who I am and the direction we really want to go. So it's interesting how the difference between, even though you've been there for a long time, just becoming a head coach and the difference that is.
Sure. And taking over after Kelly Wells, who is the all-time winningest leader here, wins leader, national championship head coach, national coach of the year, and several conference championships. Like, it wasn't like the program was unsuccessful or something happened and he took another job elsewhere. He's my boss. He's still my boss. He's the athletics director. So, taking over under those circumstances, continuity was a big piece of why I probably have the job, in all honesty. Just the fact that I have been here for a while. I've seen what works. I kind of know what works and what doesn't work in this situation in our university and athletics department. And, what we were doing was good. And I had a big hand in what we were doing alongside of coach. And, there's a big part of me as a coach that felt obligated almost early on to continue some of those things because it wasn't broke. And, it worked. We've had some success and it's been fine. But like you said, as you go on, you just learn that, regardless of how it went, regardless of the success level that we had doing what we were doing, some of that stuff just doesn't fit me. some of the way that we were doing things, and maybe the kind of guy that we had and recruited and coached. Like, maybe I'm not able to have the same kind of impact on some of those guys as Coach Wells was. So trying to find, my lane, trying to find my niche, so to speak, and what works best for me, what I'm most comfortable doing, and what kind of player we're able to pull the most out of has been a journey. Obviously, with the other obstacles of COVID and different things that we've had to go along with it, has made it even more interesting. But continuity was a big piece that I wanted to make sure was still part of our program from what we used to do. I've just learned that on the floor, and schematically, maybe I've got to be a little more intentional in finding my own lane. And a lot of the things that we do culturally, a lot of the things that we do academically, a lot of the things that we're able to do off the floor, that's really the area of continuity that I've been able to hit the most, and found the things that have always worked there and that we've had the most impact off the floor with our guys. And a lot of those things are exactly the same as they have been for the last 15 years. But as a coach, I've learned the hard way over the last couple of years that I've got to be more true to myself. I've got to figure out what it is that makes me have some inner peace, makes me feel the most comfortable doing the job, and the more comfortable I am doing it, I think it's portrayed on our staff and our players, and the more confidence I can put in them and get out of them and doing what we ask them to do.
Coaches, the Jamodi podcast is powered by Ballogy. Manage and measure your players' skill development and increase accountability year-round utilizing the Ballogy app. Boost inter-squad competition with drills backed by the National High School Basketball Coaches Association, including a 40-shot Ballogy skills assessment. Please visit ballogy.com/teams for information on how you can provide this resource for your team. I didn't even know that the former coach was now your boss. So that's just another interesting dynamic there. So coming from being a part of a program that you've worked in and worked for, and now you're the head of it, and has such a great culture, a winning tradition. What's something that makes your program different?
Yeah, Pikeville it's an hour from my hometown. So I grew up as a kid coming to Pikeville and watching games in Pikeville. This is my alma mater. This is my wife's alma mater. I have several family members that have graduated from here. And this is my 15th year here coming up that we're participating in now. So being here for so long gives me a different perspective than most, maybe when they come in here initially. Everything means a little more to me just because it's been my entire professional life. Coming in as a student assistant when I was an undergrad and never having to leave, having the opportunity to kind of get the next opportunity here every time that I looked for it, every time that I needed it. I've never known anything other than this. I've worked with a lot of amazing coaches alongside of me throughout the years, but my entire professional life has been spent as a basketball coach at the University of Pikeville. So everything here is kind of magnified in that regard. It's not just a stepping stone for me. It's not something that we're just trying to hit and be successful and get out, or that we're trying to toy with, or that we're not super concerned about the community. I mean, like I said, I've been here for 15 years. The community is full of people that my wife works with. We've been friends with for a decade. We went to school with. I mean, it's home.
Yeah.
And I think speaking about that is kind of a roundabout way of talking about what makes our program a little bit different. And maybe different isn't the right term, but
Stand out or special.
I think what we are and who we are is because of the holistic approach that we try to take as a program. Just as I talked about everything mattering to me and the community and the relationships with friends and the image of our program and the community service of our program, and just kind of the holistic approach and the impact that our program is having in the community and amongst the people that we're able to touch, it's very similar in our program. We want to win a ton of games. That's always the ultimate goal. We want to compete for championships. That's the expectation here, as it should be. But we're not going to settle for less than what we feel like is our best. We're not going to settle for any kind of lower standard other than, we're going to try to make you the best student that you can be. We're going to try to make you the best person that you can be. We're going to try to impact you in ways that don't just end with your time here. They're going to last you for a lifetime. And we're really intentional with that. And it's not for everybody. We talk about it a lot in the recruiting process that if you just want to come here and play basketball and you're not willing to be coached hard, you're not willing to be pushed academically, you're not willing to get out of your box and maybe be open-minded in the community and impact different ways, then this is probably going to be a miserable experience for you, because we're going to demand a lot of that from you. We're going to demand that you find a routine. We're going to demand that you create positive daily habits that get you to a place where we feel comfortable that when you leave here, you can function in society, that you're used to expectation. Dealing with expectation is a huge thing here that we work with our guys on, just in terms of, one day you're going to hopefully have a family that depends on you to produce. You're going to have a child that depends on you to produce. You're going to have your own life that depends on you to get up every day and go be your best and be as successful as that you can to meet a lifestyle that is what you want. And, when those things get hard and when those times get hard, have you ever had to rise above that? Have you ever had to deal with the expectation of, if I don't succeed and if I don't find a way to get through this, there are going to be consequences that impact not only me, but other people. And, we try to instill that in them here in terms of just understanding, like, this is why, like, your willingness to get up every morning and go to your study hall hours, your willingness to get up at 8 a.m. when it's raining on a Saturday and go, read to elementary school kids or go do a free camp at a middle school somewhere. Like, your willingness to participate and find value in that is going to carry over. Like, you're going to have to do some of those things in life that you just don't necessarily want to do, or they're inconveniencing you at some point in time or some way. And trying to create that consistency and dependability and just maturity, I guess, of our guys in so many different areas, to where we're not just relying solely on the court, that we're putting a lot of that emphasis in them academically, spiritually at times, but certainly in our community service, servanthood type areas, just trying to create a holistic approach and experience for our guys, to where we feel like, as a small college basketball program and a small college coach, none of us are making the millions of dollars. None of us are necessarily tied to, winning 25 games every single year to maintain our job. It's about a holistic approach. It's about a student athlete experience. And, we're never gonna settle and lower our expectations to create anything less than what we feel like is the best student athlete experience that we can.
I wonder how many players are choosing schools solely on basketball. They don't really care about or know about everything else that the university has to offer, what it stands for, or what the community's like. And they don't realize that they're going to be a part of that. So I think that's a really interesting way. One, it comes from you, the fact that, even listening to you right here, I can tell the passion that you have for the place that you've been for 15 years, but even growing up wanting to, be there. And I think that has to come through, because that authenticity is what people will follow. And so when those players come there, the fact that the expectation is that you are part of something way bigger than just this basketball team. I got to imagine that's pretty special.
Yeah. When you get guys that really buy into that and believe in it, it can be. And it's not always easy. There's a lot of, we're in that stage right now where, luckily, this group of guys that we have here currently, they're all new, essentially. So there is no, well, this is the way we used to do it here. This is different than we've used to do it. We're going to fight about that, or, anything of that nature. They're all open-minded. They're all coming into a new situation, and they're willing to learn and figure out what needs to be done to be the most successful here. We talk about best being the standard a lot. We talk about what best looks like a lot. We talk about best meaning, your best that day, not necessarily maybe a personal record day every single day, but everybody has a best in everything that they do every single day, regardless of what level you're operating at that day. And that's the expectation. That's the expectation that we put on ourselves as coaches. That's the expectation that we put on our players in all avenues of their life. So, we think there's a million different ways to do it. There's a lot of different ways to do it. That's just the way that we do it. And it certainly doesn't make it right or
Yeah.
wrong or anything of that nature. But just as a small college basketball coach, I just think it has to be about more than the games, more than the wins and losses. It has to be an opportunity to have an impact in other ways. And that's just, that was something that along the way as an assistant coach, I learned and kind of came up with and decided that was going to be important to me. Working for Coach Wells, he was always very family oriented. He was always amazing to us as coworkers. He's carried that on as the AD as well. And he was always about the experience, always about making sure that we were teaching young men to be better men, and at least trying to instill lessons and habits and create at least a mindset that even if it wasn't successfully obtained while they were here, maybe you get that call in 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, whatever it is down the road, and some of those dots started to connect.
Right.
And maybe some of those lessons were able to come into play then. So that's always been, we call them coaching paychecks. That's always been a big thing for us. And that's that's something that we want to continue here as well.
I like that. Coaching paychecks. That's good. I always tell the one thing I ask my players is you got to invite me to your wedding.
Sure.
I have to be I'm not going to ask for anything else besides, giving your very, very best every day. Besides that, wedding, getting invited there. So I love that coaching paychecks there.
Yeah, we've had a few of those, and those are always good times. Anytime you can gather with guys that have been, we've had a couple of teams that have been inducted into our Athletics Hall of Fame over the last few years, and a couple players from, our era over the last 10 or 12 years that have went in, and, seeing some of their teammates come back and all the teams come back and just kind of interact and kind of live those days again for an hour or two. That's always fun. It's always great.
I struggle with balancing the amount of effort, time, focus that, I put into coaching throughout the season. I would imagine you're the same. I think almost every coach that we do this because we love the game. We love players and we want to be excellent. And so there's a certain amount of commitment, time commitment there.
Sure.
How do you balance that time commitment to your family and giving them what they need, but then also your program?
Yeah, I think I do a decent job of it. Now, if you ask my wife, I'm sure she probably has a different viewpoint. But the one thing I guess I have going for me is that my wife and I met here at school while I was a student assistant. So she's never known anything about me that didn't have basketball coach attached to it. So our entire relationship, we've been married over 9 years now, going on 10 years. We're expecting our first child.
Awesome,
spring.
man.
So,
congrats.
I appreciate that. But, she's never known anything other than the chaos of the season and just the process. We would go, when we first started dating, we would go out to eat after practice or whatever it was. And we would have to come back by the gym so that I could switch the laundry over or I could hang stuff up or whatever. And she'd have to just kind of tag along and hang along with me for 20 or 30 minutes while I took care of whatever kind of managerial responsibilities that I had. And that was just part of it. And for whatever reason, she stuck around and stayed with it and enjoys it. But, I think there definitely needs to be a balance. I struggle probably the most because one of my favorite hobbies is basketball. So not only is it what I do, during the day and during practice, but when I go home, what I'm interested in watching is basketball. What I'm interested in reading about is basketball. What I'm interested in listening to on a podcast or whatever that looks like, most of the time has something to do with coaching, leadership, or basketball. So in a weird way, I'm able to get my release and my peace, I guess, my inner peace from listening and watching other people in basketball, not necessarily worrying about my team, not necessarily worrying about my players or how it fits into our program, but just watching other people play, watching other coaches coach, listening to other people talk about what they do with their program and not necessarily having anything on the line for myself or our
Yeah.
program. That is kind of, I guess, how I incorporate my hobby with my profession. Um, Luckily, I have a wife that doesn't love to watch a ton of TV, so I'm able to control that most of the time. She's reading her book or she's doing whatever she's doing, and I'm able to have whatever's on the TV. But I try to be present. If I'm going to be home, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be present, and
I think
you know,
that's a huge point right
sure,
there.
and
Yeah.
and not trying to leave. Not necessarily leaving work at work, because it just, you can't do that. I just don't think that you can separate the two, especially during the season. Like there's just so much carryover that just, it takes a ton of your time and commitment and all the other responsibilities that you have. Sometimes you have to spend some extra hours, and you either do that in the office away from your family, or you try to incorporate that a little bit at home with your family. So um, having my wife be open to being part of this family
Yeah.
is huge. Having her invested in our program, having her invested in our team success, our player success, the relationships that we have. Our staff is not only our staff; like we're best friends. Like we spend a ton of time together. We've been, we don't really do anything outside of work without each other most of the time. If we're going to go out, or we're going to go watch a show, we're going to do whatever, most of the time it's with us, and we do it as a staff. And it's kind of, we're friends and we're coworkers. So the spouses and the girlfriends, that kind of thing, they all get along great as well. So being able to just incorporate my significant other into this family,
Yeah.
into our basketball family, and have her part of that, and have her be open to that, it also helps. Because you just can't have two. It's hard to have two families. It's hard to have one at home,
Yeah.
one at work. It's really hard to maintain that. There's always going to be a balance that is difficult to maintain. One person or one thing is going to be neglected in somehow, some way. If you have a hard time, if you can't marry the two in some capacity, it's a really hard thing to do. And like I said earlier, Coach Wells was always, he had two small children for the most part. While he was a head coach here, they're one's in college and one's in high school now. But as we were getting started, and for the last 10 years, his children were young. His wife works, so being home and being around his kids' activities and spending time with his wife, that was always extremely important to him. Summertime would come around, and his wife would be getting out of school at 3:30, and he would go home at 3:30 every day, and make sure that he was home, get everything he could done before 3:30, and at that time he was going home. And just watching his example with that has given me, I guess, the confidence in knowing that we don't have to be in here from 7 a.m. till 7 p.m. every night. Like, it's just doesn't have to happen that way.
Yeah.
We can do what we need to on the laptop. We can do what we need to on the phone. We can do it from anywhere. So when it's time to go home, it's time to go home.
I think that's a really good point. We need to release ourselves from the idea that if we're not staying up here all hours of the night, then we're not a serious coach, or we're not a good coach. I think we can work smarter and really use our time wisely. But if you do happen to have the family that I think you and I both have, where our spouses enjoy it, like my wife likes watching our games, she likes the relationships. And you know what? She actually gives really good advice, even though she played in high school a little bit, but she just has a good eye for it. Her dad was a football coach, so she's been around that sports her whole life. And so sometimes we'll come home and she'll give me a nugget that, man, I'll just say, babe, that's really good. Like that's good. So sometimes the next day in practice, hey guys, my wife had a really good point, and it kind of give her credit for it. But then once if they enjoy it, and then they're also okay with no Thanksgiving really, and then and no Christmas break either. If they're okay with those things, then it's gonna be fun.
I'm lucky enough that all of my family is within an hour and a half or 2 hours from here, and all of her family is within 2.5 or 3 hours. So we're always in a situation where if we're going to be on a long road trip, or we're going to be gone for a weekend, like it's not tough for her to just load up and go see the in-laws, or go see her sister, or go to wherever she wants to go and spend time doing what she's doing. So she's great about that. She's great about not sitting around and being a victim, I guess, of the schedule, but just finding opportunities and to grow her own relationships, and to grow her own personal wants, and those kinds of things, to find hobbies that she's interested in, and to kind of find time to work around those things when my schedule keeps us going for a while or keeps us occupied for a while. And I guess one thing that I try to be really diligent about with that is that I don't bring home problems. I don't, I'm it's about a 15-minute drive from work to home for me. So
It's
I'm
enough
able
time
to,
to
for sure.
disconnect.
And I try to be intentional with that. I try to, if I'm on the phone and it's something about what we just handled at work, or maybe I've called another friend to vent about what we just had to deal with, I won't get out of the truck until that conversation's done. Like I ride around, or I just sit in the driveway or whatever that is, and I end it right there in the truck before I get out, and I go home. So we talk about the job. She's invested obviously in the program and our success and the job. But I really am intentional about not bringing the problems home with me. And again, just being present with her. And, if she wants to deep dive and she wants to ask questions about a certain thing, maybe I run something by her and get her advice on a situation, or just kind of explain what's got me a little flustered at this point in time. And she's a great ear to listen. She'll give some advice, but at the same time, just trying to respect the fact that, she didn't have anything to do with what happened at work, or she didn't have anything to do with how bad practice was, or anything of that nature. I don't want to take that. I don't want to take that out on her. So just trying to leave the problems at work and pick them up the next day when I come home. That's something I am very intentional about.
The Jamodi Podcast is powered by Sideline Interactive. Sideline Interactive is the leading manufacturer for high-quality, innovative scoring tables and LED video display boards that help coaches and schools bring more excitement to fans, create huge fundraising opportunities, and make their jobs easier. Visit sidelineinteractive.com to check out their amazing products.
As I walk around practice every day, I think one of the biggest jobs that we have is catching our players in moments where their confidence is falling. They're allowing it to fall. What are some things that you do to help build your players' confidence?
Yeah, and naturally, I'm not the most positive person in the world. A matter of fact, my mind usually goes worst case, and I work my way back from there. Bob Knight had a book a while back, The Power of Negative Thinking. And really, honestly, that is the way my mind works a lot of times. And I really,
do you think that book would sell well today? Or is that,
and the title I think is a little misleading, just for the fact that basically it's just telling hey, expect the worst, come up with a plan for that. And then
I'm sure there's some good nuggets.
Work your way back. It's a great thing. But I really tried to be intentional, especially over the last, I guess 6 months or so, to change that mentality a little bit. Once I saw that it was not only impacting me, but it was impacting those around me, and kind of seeing the impact that maybe, because when I go to that worst place right off the bat, it's not meant to be a cause for panic, or a cause for confrontation, or a cause for any of those kinds of things. It's just simply my mind working. I go, okay, if this is what's happened, what is the worst thing that can come from it? And are we okay with that? Can we keep it going with that? And if not, we've got to work it back to a level of okay, it can't be worse than this. It's got to stop here at worst case. So, just trying to change that and trying to be positive. I think we're doing a better job of that overall as a staff. I think we're doing a better job of that in the head coach's office so far. We've not had a lot to be negative about yet, but at the same time, I think we are being more positive. I think that's protruding onto our players. I think I think there's a different pep in their step. I think there's a different level of confidence already, mostly dealing with the weight room, mostly dealing with just academics, with us just kind of just being positive with them and just being reassuring and a text every now and then, just letting them know they've done a great job and that they're doing what they're supposed to do and that we're proud of them. I think that goes a long way.
Every time you're positive with those players, you're depositing in their account.
Sure,
you're depositing it. And I think the beauty of that is the moment that you do need to withdraw, you do need to drop the hammer, you do need to correct, maybe even a harsh tone, they're going to be more receptive to that. You have this huge bank to take from. I wonder how many coaches, I've been there before too, are just constantly withdrawing, taking out, and correcting, and they have almost an empty player just sitting
Yeah,
in front of
I'm
them.
guilty. I'm guilty of that, no question. Especially early on, just again with some of the demands that come from this position and some of the expectations that are on this particular position. Um, I've been there. I'm as guilty as anyone. But we've already talked about the attitude of gratitude. Is a big thing that we talk about, a coach phrase, so to speak, that we speak a lot about, and we speak about it from a different level of what gratitude provides the giver, not the receiver. And if you're able to approach something and be intentional about having an attitude of gratitude or showing gratitude to your teammates, to your family, to those around you, what it's doing is it's training you to see the good in things. It's training you to see the positive, because you're not able to show that appreciation and show your gratitude if you haven't first recognized it and seen what there is to be thankful for and what there is to praise for.
Yeah.
So we talk about that a lot, and that's really the approach that I'm taking myself, trying to improve some of that positive thinking and some of that positive reinforcement. Is just, if I'm approaching a situation or approaching a season with more of an attitude of gratitude, then that's hopefully training me and forcing me to look for the good more often and look for the positive things that are happening that are worthy of praise, that need to be praised and need to be brought up. So that's a method, and that's an avenue that we're really trying to be intentional about, me specifically. And
I appreciate you sharing that. Gannon Baker said that you can't coach what you don't possess.
Sure.
So we have to possess gratitude. We have to be grateful first if we actually want our players to have that attribute as well. So that's a good, and thank you for sharing that, being, kind of vulnerable, authentic, and, sharing that here.
Yeah. And with our teams, we've had great rosters the last 2 years. We've had, guys that have definitely impacted us. We've had guys that hopefully we've had a positive impact on them. But at the same time, we've talked a lot about, especially with that first group during COVID that we brought in, 10 transfers, 12 new guys. We couldn't see any of them in person. It was all on film. I inherited a roster of 2 returners when I first got the job. 2 weeks after I was announced at our press conference, COVID hit and we were all sent home. So
your boss is like, "Here you go."
No question. So we just didn't know what to do, didn't know how to handle it. And we've been very open and vulnerable with those guys and talking about, hey, I'm learning. Like our staff, like we've all inherited new roles that we feel like we're confident in, that we feel like we're capable of achieving, success in, but not without some growing pains, not without learning. And we need that maturity from our team and from our players to grow with us and understand that, like, we don't pretend to have all the answers. We don't pretend to know what's right all the time, but I am going to try to make the best decision that I feel like is best for our program and best for the situation and the time. And sometimes I may miss it. Sometimes I may look back on it and wish I'd went a different route or tweak that decision just a little bit here or there. But all we can do is make the best decision with the information that we have in the moment and attack it and try to make it the best it can be. And we understand that we're not always going to be 100% right on the money. And we ask those guys to be mature enough to understand that, like, you've got to trust us to tell you, maybe we need to go a different direction, or maybe we need to do a different way, even when you really believe we shouldn't. You've got to trust us to kind of have the best of the team in mind and the best of the team at heart, and just give it all you've got and see where the chips fall at the end, and hope that we made the right decision. And if not, we'll back up and punt. We'll do it a different way. We'll do it a different time the next time. So we've been lucky enough. That's one thing. We've traditionally had a lot of older players. We traditionally went the transfer route more often than not. Now, with 15 guys this year, we kind of split that half and half. I think it was maybe 8 and 6 or 8 and 7, whatever we got. But traditionally, we've had some older guys that have kind of been through the fire a little bit and have been some different places and experienced different cultures, different coaches, different philosophies. And they're mature enough to handle and say, hey, like I've made some mistakes in my past and done some different things that I wish I would have done in another way or another manner to maybe lead me to a different place or lead me to a place where I had more choices than I had. But at the same time, I played for some coaches that have really helped me and done some great things. And I played for some that I didn't agree with necessarily. And I'm sure this is going to be no different. I'm going to have to find how to be successful here, and we're going to have to trust our staff, and we're going to have to do it together. Like we have to do it together. We've got to have everybody on the same page.
I want to go back to one thing you said. When I ask a lot of the coaches, or they choose the question, if you could start over in coaching, and you and I haven't been doing it maybe long enough to where we could answer that already. But when many of those coaches, when they answer that question, I would go back and be more vulnerable with my team. I would admit when I've made a mistake, because I don't know if I'm thinking back to, coaches that I had before Coach Drew, because I had him my senior year. Before him, I don't remember them ever, guys, hey, I made a mistake. I apologize. I'm going to be better. Hey, together we can do that. I don't remember that feeling. Is that something, because you just mentioned that you said that to your players, or that's kind of what you're trying to be. Is that something natural for you, or is that something that you're really working on?
Yeah, it's not natural.
It's a stretch.
Yeah, it's not natural, but at the same time, it's not super out of the realm. I don't think. I think certainly, especially when it comes to the basketball piece, like I totally, there are just some things where, again, there's no right way or wrong way to do something. You just have to pick a way to do it, and I have to decide what I'm willing to live with, what I'm not willing to live with, what it's best for the program as a whole. So some things are just, we have to make a decision. We got to go with it, and we're gonna conform to whatever that result looks like based off that decision, because that's the decision that we had to make. And but the things that are, if we put a set in, maybe we put a lot of time, we're adding a new set, and we spend a lot of time as a staff going over it. We think it's just going to be perfect right the way it is, and we go out to put it in 5-on-0, and all of a sudden we hit a place and we're just like, well, this other thing makes way more sense than what we're doing right here. Or maybe we've ran a set, maybe it's something that we've had in for the last 3 years, and all of a sudden I see something on Twitter where somebody ended it a different way, or they started it a different way, and I'm sitting there thinking, like, that's way better than the way that we've been doing it and the way that we've done it. Like, we'll change that in a second. Like, it doesn't, those kind of decisions are easy to fix and easy to change. I'm not stuck on anything of that matter at all. And if our guys come to us and say, hey, like, I know we're trying to do it this way, but like this is, maybe 2 or 3 or 4 guys go through and they all mess it up at the same point, doing the same thing, and it's opposite of what we're trying to get them to do. It's like, well, am I the crazy one, or are they the crazy ones? Like, maybe what I'm trying to get them to do is just not at all natural, and not like what's going to be best. If like that's going to be their instinct, and they're going to be willing to react quicker and more confidently doing it that way, like, it's really 6 one way, half a dozen another. It's not like my way is going to get a stop every single time, or whatever it looks like. If they can be comfortable in doing it a certain way and it doesn't change the grand scheme of things, then we'll change it. We made a mistake. We didn't do what we needed to do. But I think I just think the consistency with being vulnerable is also a big thing. I think consistency in leadership is maybe the most important thing. I think it just instills routine and organization for you and for the people you're with. I think once, if people don't know what to expect from you as a leader, it's going to be really hard to follow. And I just think that whatever path you choose, whatever attributes you choose to have, and whatever vulnerabilities you choose to have, you need to be consistent in those. And it can't just be something that you're very confrontational one moment and not the next, or confrontational about one set of circumstances and not the next. I think you just have to show some willingness to be consistent in whatever it is that you choose to do.
Because confidence is it works both ways.
Sure.
We have to be confident in our players. They have to prove to us, do things that allow us to be confident in what they can do. But it's the other way around. I think there's some confidence that they need to have in us.
It's repetition.
That we will show up the same.
Yeah, and going back to a previous question, talking about how you instill confidence in your players and that kind of thing, I think repetition is one way, that you think about maybe on the floor, but there's also repetitions off the floor. Like if player A comes into my office 10 times over the course of the next 3 weeks, what sort of consistency is there in our relationship in those 10 times? Like what kind of consistency is there in the way that we communicate? What consistency is there in the way that I greet them? The messaging behind what we're doing? Like, it's just there's repetition to figure out what to expect, to figure out what's coming next. That's what repetition is for, is to try to eliminate the surprise.
I think that's a good nugget. I'm sorry. I think that's a good nugget right there that I wanted to hit again, is because I think I focus on the consistency with our training, the consistency in the weight room, the consistency on the floor with what we do, with the way we shoot. But I guess a question for all coaches listening to think about is, well, how are you consistent, or what repetitions do you have off the floor?
Sure.
With your players, that where things that they can expect, things that they know are coming, things that they can count on, or are we just kind of flying on the edge and just choosing randomly to do things here and there? I think that consistency matters.
It definitely does, and Buzz Williams is a guy that his path is he didn't really play, and he started at an NAI.
Similar path.
It's just a story that I've always kind of resonated with, just because of the level that he's been able to reach and the journey that he's been on. But I think he's got it in the weight room, maybe there at Texas A&M, and I'm a huge Virginia Tech guy. I grew up in Southwest Virginia, going to Virginia Tech games as a football, basketball.
Were you sad when he left?
I was. And Coach Young is I can relate to him as well, because he kind of came back home to take that job. So he's from Radford, right there next to Blacksburg. So if we were going to replace him, I'm glad we have Coach Young in there now. Obviously led him to an ACC championship, so he's doing a great job. But with Coach Williams, he's always had a slogan. I think it's on the weight room in Texas A&M now, but it's that your rep, being reputation, is earned through your reps, being your repetitions. And I think we all have a little bit of that on the floor. I think that's we make our decisions based off what we feel like you're capable of as a player, based off what we consistently see from you in your reps. Your reputation is made by your repetitions, and I think it goes off the floor as well. I think if you act like a jerk to enough people, your reputation is going to be as a jerk, and that's you've earned that through those repetitions of doing so. And if you have a habit of compassion, or you have repetitions of compassion with your players and empathy with your players, then you're going to have a reputation of empathy and compassion with your players. And I think that earning your rep through your reps is something that's always kind of resonated ever since I saw that. He does quote shirts and all that. Maybe it was on a quote shirt. I'm not sure where I saw it, but I think that quote or that saying kind of resonated with me a little bit, just because I think it's consistency and organization is such a huge thing for me. Even our whiteboard in the office, or in the locker room that we write our pregame stuff on, our scouting report and stuff on. This was made while Coach Wells was the head coach, but I was putting together a lot of the scouts, so it was organized in the manner that my mind worked. Even our whiteboard is sectioned off with what goes on the scout, and it's got its own little area for this, its own little area for this. It's just that's the way my mind works. It's compartmentalized a little bit in terms of just I like to have boxes. My desk has stacks. I like to have stacks. I like order. I like neatness.
Nothing wrong with that, Coach. Nothing wrong with that.
I like those kinds of things, and I think that that's just the consistency piece of the job, and the consistency piece of the relationship building. I think it's just as important and as anything else that we do. Just showing that we are really who we are. It's not just a every now and then thing. We're willing to do what we're saying. We're willing to do over and over and over again, not just when it's convenient for us or convenient for you. I think just showing through our reps and building our reputation through our reps, I think, is really important.
I think being organized is one of the superpowers that you need to have as a coach, or else
It drives me
you
nuts. I
run,
mean,
you run the
even
risk. Yeah.
we're on Teamworks, and that's how kind of we operate our schedule every day, and it's just it drive if something's not on there, it just drives me nuts. I know I drive my staff crazy by just going out there and almost micromanaging that schedule thing from time to time, just because like, hey, I don't see this on the schedule. Like, can we get it on the schedule? Just being able to see it all right there. It's all lined out. It's all laid out. Maybe there's some OCD involved in that. I'm not sure, but
I don't know, but it helps you to it limits the amount of things that fall through the cracks. And I think that's a danger of being unorganized, is that you'll miss something that is really important.
Sure. And I think organization just allows us to, I think it allows us, it's almost like the whole, failure to prepare is preparing to fail, like kind of thing. If we're thinking ahead enough and we're organized enough that we've got it all laid out, we know exactly where we need to be, exactly what's going into what. We just don't have to think about it as much.
Yeah.
Like, it's already there. We've got reminders set. Like we've got, we just know what to expect, and there's no, we're not waking up today wondering what we got to do, when we got to be somewhere. I mean, it's all there, and we can devote our mind space to something else. We can devote all the extra thoughts and all the extra time we have today to something else versus just kind of the uncertainty of what's coming next, when we already have prepared and know exactly what to expect.
Coaches, the Jamodi podcast is powered by Shoot 360. The future of basketball has arrived in Dallas-Fort Worth. Shoot 360 combines the latest sports technology with the fundamentals of basketball skill development. The result is a one-of-a-kind video game-like basketball program designed to improve your shooting, dribbling, and passing. Visit shoot360dfw.com to learn more and register for your free 1-hour workout evaluation. Shoot 360, the future of basketball is here. What coaches and leaders do you follow closely?
Yeah, we mentioned Coach Williams, Buzz Williams, and I love anything that he talks on podcasts very rarely, articles even less, but you get those snippets of videos and different things that he does with his teams. I love that. But it honestly, I think I tend to lean more toward, I love studying football coaches. I love listening to, again, in a weird way, I think it kind of comes back to the organization standpoint. Like, I think the way a football staff is organized and managed, and as large as some of those, Power 5 football staffs are, and the way that those organizations are having to be run, it's very compartmentalized: offense, defense, position groups. I just love listening to their leadership strategies. I love listening to how they command such large groups, how they get the most out of such large groups, while obviously having to delegate so much through those position groups and different things. I'm a big podcast guy. I listen to a ton of different podcasts, just anything and everything I can get my hands on in terms of leadership, or in terms of coaching leadership specifically. If I can catch a coach and on there talking about like his program's values, or his program's or his journey, whatever it looks like, I'm downloading that automatically. We're gonna listen to that. I don't know that it's a one coach or one leader kind of thing. I think it's more of just a genre. Okay. I think just being willing to being willing again and open-minded again. I think that's a little bit of where I get some of my personal release, I guess, so to speak, is just, again, listening and just saying, not necessarily listening to implement my own program or listening for any other intent other than just to hear. And maybe it provides a little bit of just, maybe I know what I'm doing a little bit from time to time.
Validation.
Hearing somebody else say, hey, this is, I've been coaching for 50 years and I'm at the highest level of whatever it is, and these are the things that we do and talk about and work on. A lot of times those sound very similar to the battles that we have here today and that we're talking about. And maybe it just is some validation in terms of, we're not that far off. We're going down the right road, some of the same struggles, regardless of what level you're at, regardless of how long you've been doing it. We all fight the same battles. I told my team yesterday, just you could see some disappointment on some guys' faces. You could see some just overwhelmingness, I guess. They've got the basketball piece that we're talking about. You've got the weight piece that is new to some of them. You've got the class piece that is more demanding maybe than they're used to. They've got the expectation of the study halls, and it's just a lot. Like right now is when it all starts to hit them. And I just had to remind myself, and I had to remind them that every team in America feels the same way right now. Every player in America feels the same way right now. Every coach feels very similarly right now.
And that it's okay to be feeling that way.
No question. And it's just some validation in terms of just, like everybody's facing the same struggles and the same general issues that you're facing in terms of it being early in the year and having new guys and having to teach certain things in a certain way. And for them to feel okay too, that like, hey, every player new to a program or new to a situation is having to adjust, and they're having to learn, and not everybody picks it up immediately. And some guys are having to figure some things out in different ways, and that's okay, and that's not uncommon. And I think podcasts, I think articles, I think just studying coaches that are where you hope to be, or that are successful in a manner that you hope to be successful in yourself. I think just the more you can listen to them and the more that you can hear them talk about the same things that you go through every single day, it definitely validates what you're doing, and that you're not crazy and not struggling, not the only one out there doing it.
All right, Coach, the speed round. Quick questions. First thing that comes to your mind, blurt it out. We're going to get to know you real well.
All right.
Favorite ice cream flavor?
Chocolate.
How many hours of sleep do you need?
6 or 7.
Okay. Best basketball movie of all time?
I'll say Hoosiers. I got to go to the Hoosiers gym a year or two ago and experience.
Did you go to the clinic?
I didn't. They hosted an all-star game.
Oh, nice.
Some kind of all-star game. We had a signee that played in it that we had signed from Southport High School in Indiana, and we got to go up and watch him play. So I got to go there, look at that, go in the locker room, and so I'll say Hoosiers.
That's cool. For high school, shot clock or no shot clock?
Shot clock.
Texting or talking?
Talking. FaceTiming. I'm a big FaceTime guy. I don't like it. I actually hate to talk on the phone. I hate talking on the phone. I love FaceTiming. So when we're recruiting, we're doing different things. It's most of the time it's FaceTiming.
What do you feel is the difference between the two, besides that you can see them?
Well, I know there's attentiveness to what's going on. I know what they're doing. I know if they're paying attention to what I'm saying. I know what the surroundings are at that moment, to know just kind of, maybe some guys are more guarded with their responses if they're on the phone, if they're around certain people, if they're in certain settings. I like to be able to see. I just think there's too much about what we're able to see and body language and those kinds of things that we can take from those kind of conversations, to not try to talk to somebody face to face as much as possible.
That's good. Favorite holiday?
Christmas, maybe, I guess, because we get a little time off. I guess Christmas would be it. Or, Memorial Day is a good one because it's kind of the start. It's the first kind of long weekend that you get, and it's the start of, spring, summer. Like for coaches, it's leading you into kind of the downtime in the off season. So I like Memorial Day quite a bit as well. I think
I've had a lot of coaches say July 4th for that reason. Because it's not in season.
For sure, something of that nature to kind of just remind you that we're off season. It's okay to have a little fun. It's okay to take a little time off. Like, maybe Christmas is always a little hectic just because you're anticipating getting your guys back. If you've lost your last game before you went home, that's always on your mind. So it's a little hectic. So maybe I should scratch that and go to either 4th of July or like a Memorial Day weekend.
In basketball, who is the GOAT?
The age-old debate, right? The fight.
Who came to your mind? You're thinking too. Who came?
I've lived through all of LeBron James's career. I say lived. I've been able to enjoy it and appreciate it. Mm-hmm. I didn't get to do that with Michael Jordan. However, I do think that there are just some characteristics of Michael Jordan that make me go that way. I think that I think that the way I'm wired, the things that I appreciate the most, I think that he kind of exudes most of those things.
I think The Last Dance just showed how different he was, and a lot of people were critical of some of those things, but he was on another level. Anyway, two more. How many cups of coffee do you drink per day?
Never had a cup of coffee in my life. There's a lot of things I've never had food wise that could be surprising. Probably it could be an entire different podcast, but I'm a big. This is Spark.
Okay. Yeah.
So Advocare. So I have many Sparks, not many cups of coffee.
Last one. Godfather, Star Wars, or neither?
Probably neither.
All right.
I would go Godfather over Star Wars.
Okay. Favorite movie genre? Like, what do you like to watch?
I'm like I guess I'm like an action thriller kind of guy. I like. I'm a big TV series guy. Like I watch a ton of series. I watch a ton of TV shows. That's one of the things my wife and I love to do is just binge watch a show, binge watch a series. We probably watch too much TV, but that is one of our guilty pleasures in terms of just kind of what takes our mind off of work.
Yeah, you talk about disconnecting. Like it's a Big Brother, Survivor. Like for my wife and I, those are things that we do together it doesn't take the place of a date night, but it's just, we enjoy it. We love to talk about it, strategize, and it has nothing to do with basketball, which is nice.
No question. I think, we rarely watch anything that has anything to do with sports when we watch TV or watch shows. That's why, movies, I've never been a huge movie guy. Like I can enjoy a good movie, and I've watched, most of the good ones and most of the ones that you're supposed to watch and everyone has watched. But I'm much more of a TV series guy.
Well, Coach, this was awesome. I mean, I really enjoyed getting to learn from you, listen to you, and about your program. If coaches want to, follow, learn more, connect with you, what are some of the best ways they can do that?
Yeah, Instagram, Twitter, both are just at Tigh Compton, TIGHCOMPTON. I was lucky enough to get in early enough to get my name so that no one else could ever get my name and didn't have to add underscores or whatever. So just at Tigh Compton. We've got at UPike Men's Basketball, UPike MBB on Instagram. We've got Twitter accounts for that, Facebook accounts for that as well. So, would love to connect with anybody that is interested in connecting, and hopefully something we've talked about today can resonate with someone across the world somewhere.
Yeah, Coach, I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you, Coach.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the Jamodi Podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.